It's tax day and Libertarian Charles Sauer weighs in. I'll let you guess what his thoughts are. Check it out. Ring the bell, leave your comments, and don't forget to subscribe. Charles Sauer, Libertarian economist and president of the Market Institute. His new book, Profit Motive, What Drives the Things We Do. MarketInstitute.org is the website. At Charles Sauer, S-A-U-E-R, is his Twitter handle. Charles, welcome back.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
Thanks for joining us. So we've got we were just talking to Morris Pearl, the founder and chairman of the Patriotic Millionaires, and although he may be a billionaire, I'm not sure, but in any case, former managing director at BlackRock, and he's saying, you know, raise my taxes. I'm a rich guy. You need to raise my taxes. It'll be a good thing for everybody if you raise my taxes. What say you, Charles?
Well, I think that there's a line on there where he can donate as much money as he wants, so he can voluntarily do that.
I'm sure he's already doing that.
To spend extra money through the federal government. So
you think it is a normal, good, and healthy thing that somebody like Morris Pearl pays an income tax rate of 20–25% maximum, and somebody like, you know, Sean or me or Nate, you know, people who are working for a living, can pay up to as much as 36% income tax? You like that?
Yeah, well, I think the last time we talked about this, we talked about some of the ways that taxes were actually handled in the past, and you sided with him in saying that 25% for rich people made sense because you accepted the fact that rich people could deduct the fact that they were taking their wife out for lunch while they were on a business trip, or that they were, deducting full meals and expenses and golf while they were out on those trips. And I don't think that that's the case. I think that we should have a higher burden for deductions like that, but I would like to lower the overall rate. If we look at the historical
Charles, you're A, you're misquoting me, and B, what does this have to do? You know, why are we debating deductions? It's not deductions that are the lower tax rate. Morris Pearl makes his money through capital gains. He makes his money by investing. He's a capitalist. And capitalists pay a capital gains tax rate, which is 21% right now, right? I mean, he's got a pass-through company. He's showing the profits in the company. He passes it through to himself. He pays a maximum 21%. There's no way I can do that with my paycheck. There's no way you can do that with your paycheck.
His tax rate was 25%, which means we were talking about his full taxes, which means he was deducting something off.
Well, whatever. How can you justify lower taxes for rich people than for working people?
Well, we want to give the rich people, instead of just having large bank accounts to pass on to their next generation to keep them rich, we want to give them the incentive to invest their money. We want to give them the incentive to continue growing the economy.
So why don't we give working people the incentive to work by letting them keep more of their paycheck?
We are giving the president.
The Trump tax scam raised taxes on 10,300,000 Americans.
I don't know who you're quoting, but in the New York Times, we have an article that says that if you have income of less than $30,000, you got a tax cut. If you have income of $30,000 to $50,000, you got a tax cut. And if you're the general public, likely got a tax cut.
So you think it's just fine to borrow $1.5 trillion, and instead of using that money to pay off all the student loans in the country, instead of using that money to rebuild our roads and bridges that are falling apart, instead of using that money to build schools and hospitals, instead of using that money to provide health care for people who don't have access to it, we give that money to 83% of that money to the top 90% of Americans. You think that's fine?
That is the same flawed reasoning that AOC used to keep Amazon out of New York. If you don't want to make money and if you don't want to grow the economy, then by all means.
What does that have to do with borrowing money to give tax breaks to billionaires as opposed to doing anything good for this country?
Look, I don't think we should borrow money. I think that we should cut spending. But if we're talking about the tax code and what we're doing to grow through the tax code to grow the economy, we need to continue giving incentives to everybody to spend more money. And that is what a tax cut's doing.
Then why is it that the economies, the European economies, the Canadian economy, where instead of taxes being about 20% of GDP, you know, the government sector represents somewhere between 40 and 50% of GDP, that they live longer, they are happier, they have better quality of life, and their businesses work better.
Well, I think that most of those numbers, just like the last one that you quoted, are all disputable. The numbers don't work out that way. Corporations don't pay taxes. That comes out of consumer pockets. I think this is a longer discussion and bigger numbers.
Corporations absolutely pay taxes. Okay, Charles Sauer, libertarian economist and president of the Market Institute, marketinstitute.org. His book, Profit Motive, What Drives the Things We Do. You can tweet him.